As Lance said, my name is Nicole Jacobs, and I work for the United Services Automobile Association, also known as USAA, and I'll be going over 2 recognition programs that we have with the organization. However, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and the company, then we'll jump into it. So I've been in the industry 14 years, 7 years at USAA. Majority of my background has been in fraud, but then I did eventually transition to information security, and now I currently oversee the security awareness program for the company. To tell you a little bit about USAA, it was founded in 1922 by 25 Army officers. Reason being, they were considered a risk. No one wanted to insure their vehicles. So they came together, pooled their funds, and they insured one another, and that's how they had insurance. Since then, the company has grown. We now offer finances, so we're a financial institution, and we're now considered a big bank. We've grown a little bit. Now we have over 10 million members, and we have over 50,000 employees and contractors. We're based out of the San Antonio, Texas location. We have a compound where 20,000 employees come on and off the property daily. We're larger than the Pentagon. We also have some regional offices in Colorado, Tampa, Frankfurt, London, just to name a few. So what's USA's mission? So this hits home to me. We want to be the provider of choice for the military community. So when I interview with USAA, of course, I'm trying to say, I'm awesome sauce, I've done this, I've done that, I've run fraud shops. And quickly the hiring manager said, Nicole, that's great. However, when you have that deployed member in the middle of the ocean and they have one phone call and they need you to service them, get them some money and make sure their family's secure, how do you do that? And how do you do that in a secure way? So in that moment, I'm like, oh, okay, this is not like any other financial institution or insurance company. We have a certain scope here that we need to take care of our members. Another example is the vice president of fraud. When she joined USAA, great resume, 10 years in the call center experience in her resume, so she has a heart for the member service rep community. She was on the phones. And so when she joined USAA, she had the opportunity to white-cord, listen in on the phone calls with the MSRs, the member service reps. And while she was listening to these phone calls, a member called in and needed some assistance. So the MSR said, sir, we need to ask you a couple of authentication questions, and then we'll get you taken care of. And the member said, sure, but you have to understand, I got shot in the head in 2014. I can't remember anything before then, but go ahead, ask me anything. So in that moment, the VP of fraud said, wow, this is a whole different experience here. We have a responsibility. So I pride myself in being over the security awareness program. So just to give you a quick overview of the security awareness program, since we're a financial institution, we have certain regulatory requirements, FFIEC and NYDFS. We follow the SANS maturity model. We have our compliance courses. We assign that to our full-time employees as well as our contractors. We want to oversee the training that they receive to make sure they understand exactly what's expected of them and the consistency of when it's administered. So we make sure we have our contractors trained up as well. And then we have our steering committee. I sit on the Chief Security Officer's Operations Support Team. Even though the CISO is responsible for security awareness, information security, a business decision was made to move my job to the CSO's team. Reason being, as you all know, from the CEO on down, we have a responsibility to make sure everyone's being secure. So I have my steering committee. Under the CSO, he has the Enterprise Security Group. That is the Privacy Office, Information Security, Fraud, Business Continuation, and Security Operations and Investigations. So my material that I'm evangelizing, it covers all of that, including information security. So I get together with them monthly and I said, what's keeping you up at night? What's happening in your industry? What problems are you trying to solve? And then that's when we go to the execution phase. We have our phishing campaigns and we have all these different channels on which we share awareness. For example, phishing is a huge problem. We just talked about that. Well, at the home office, we have the compound. 10,000 coffee sleeves are used a week. So why not customize one of those coffee sleeves so I can reach 40,000 people in 1 month? Things of that channel. So recognition is what I'm here to speak on. When you're trying to change behavior, people need to understand what's in it for them. Sometimes they forget the point of the mission. You got to remind people security is a shared responsibility, but recognition can be used to address some behavior changes. We tied our recognition programs to challenges that we are having at USAA. First and foremost, your security, you should be protecting us. Unfortunately, we hear that, and we heard the IT perspective as well. We have different layers of defense. No, we need you to understand security is a shared responsibility. You have a part in that. Next one, I don't have time for this. Stop sending me these phishing emails. We talked about the group account. I get all of those. Nicole, they don't know it's me, but Nicole, why are you sending me this? I'm an MSR. I have to keep the mission in mind. I have to make sure our members are serviced. Yes, that's true, but you also have that responsibility to be vigilant and identify those red flags. So then I get feedback, great, I'll just set up a rule and send everything to the junk box. You're not going to catch me next time with that. However, that's behavior you want to change as well, right? It's not just that you identify it and don't click, we need you to report. And then the last one is reporting potential fraud goes into a black hole. Why bother? That was a huge issue, and we stood up a program specifically just for that one as well. So we have our phishing tournament during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And so for me, I feel any security awareness program is successful if you have leadership buy-in. It's necessary, it's very vital to any program, especially recognition programs. I can come up to you and say, great job, but who am I at the company, right? So our CSO sends out an email at the beginning of October, reminding his peers across the entire enterprise, hey, the phishing tournament's about to kick off, it's National Cyber. Anything I have planned for that month when it comes to keynotes, security awareness expos, or anything going on, he reminds them of that, and then we go over the rules of the phishing tournament. So for the phishing tournament, the first week, we just say, you know, come familiar again with the phishing program. Outside of our compliance training, I also have another training, the one you get assigned when you fail, but you can access it at any time, so they can earn points for that the first week. The remaining of the month, we send out 7 different phishing emails, and you can earn points, of course, by properly reporting. You lose a point, of course, if you click on the email, but you don't get any points for not taking any action because you're not helping us, but you're not hurting us either. That's a behavior we're trying to change. This is a leadership board that I post. USAA has an internal intranet site. So of course we can post top news stories. We have our own social media platform where you can do ink postings, etc. So these go up weekly. And as you see, it's broken down by senior vice president across the organization, just took out the names of the people. So when it's posted, that's when people get real worked up. Oh, did you take the training? We're already behind the first week. Come on, let's get this going. And we had a 3-peat champ 3 years in a row. People were adamant about breaking that record. So that having that visual aid weekly goes a long way. Now, when it comes to the actual recognition, we start once again with the leadership. We seek out the senior vice president that won, and we bring him to our cyber threat operations briefing, the CTOC. We have a weekly stand-up in the CTOC, so I speak at the end of October. We're bringing the senior vice president in front of the CISO and the chief security officer, as well as other executive leadership. We thank them for taking the initiative to kick it off in their division, encourage in communications, encourage participation. Great job, well done. So what you see in this picture, as well as the next picture, our CSO and our CISO actually take the time to go to the area in which the area that won. So our audit team won last year. They go to the area where their employees are. Great job, guys. Thank you for your participation. Way to remain vigilant. We understand phishing is a big deal. We have a banner reveal. We cut the cake, and they're hung in their areas from then on out. So my next one, of course, I'm a little biased. I love the Fraud Fighter program with my background being in fraud. So why was the Fraud Fighter program stood up? As we mentioned, the MSR is the front line, first line of defense. So the Fraud Fighter program was stood up based on what they see and hear when they're on the phone, interacting with a member or a fraudster, right? Or possibly in the back office. Well, a part of their procedures, they have a fraud case referral form, and they're able to identify the fraud red flags that they're experiencing. It can be categorized in phishing, account takeover, money laundering, etc. They were submitting these referrals, and it gets over to the detection team. They never heard anything. So they're like, why are we even doing this? There's no point in it. The program last year prevented $64 million in potential fraud losses. So the last thing we wanted was them to stop doing that. We wanted that behavior to continue. So we stood up the Fraud Fighter program. Well, when I joined the team, this was the pamphlet we were handing out. Yay! So we're like, oh, these are the fraud red flags, compliance approved, come on, be involved, we need you to participate. So when I joined the team, I'm like, this isn't gonna work for me. We have to revamp this. So, for me personally, I love Marvel Comics. I'm a Marvel fan, and I think it's awesome sauce. So I decided to stand up a Fraud Fighter magazine. I couldn't let it be Marvel. I'm gonna create my own characters. The way I figure, if you aren't familiar with Marvel, no, you should be familiar. You may not like it, but everyone's familiar with it, right? So this was my first edition of the Fraud Fighter magazine. Same content, same information, but I made it fun. Created characters. Branding kind of hindered me, but I did what I could, right? So I stood this up, and my characters include people like multi-factor. What does that stand for? Multi-factor authentication, right? The warden, what? He's going to catch all the fish. So inside the magazine, once again, it goes over the fraud red flags. How can this continue year after year? Well, just like a magazine, you do different first edition, second edition. So this is my current edition that I handed out. I found another designer, because you know with security awareness, you got to build relationships. So I found me a new designer. Hey, can you make this a little better? And then this is my second edition. And it goes over the red flags. Once again, the characters are in it. But why would the MSR community care about this as well? Well, if you're one of my highlighted fraud fighters, you're featured in the magazine. So when I hit the road and I'm doing my security and compliance expos across the enterprise, I literally have people grab it. You want to sign this? I'm in it. You know I'm a superhero, blah, 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 blah. So it goes a long way. People have fun with it, right? But the best part is the recognition. Fraud Fighter program, as I mentioned, we have a monthly selection. So the best thing when you're standing up a brand new program, the key is utilize resources that currently exist. Funding can be limited as well too, right? So we already have this process and procedures for the MSR community. Stand up the Fraud Fighter program based on the reports generated by submitting those referrals. So I took those referrals and I do some analysis and I select one fraud fighter to highlight monthly. When I get that fraud fighter, that's when I partner with, guess who? The VP of fraud. Why? Because she has a heart for the MSR community. When I'm at meetings, I'm listening for hooks. So when you want that leadership buy-in, you got to pull on those heartstrings. So she partners with this. So in that C-Talk operational stand-up weekly, she speaks in there also, so a member from her team. Well, we have a partnership where she allows me to speak once a month in that slot. We partner with fraud, and we highlight a fraud fighter here. There's SMEs to vet the case, but I build the story. For the first time, the MSR is going to see what happened before, during, and after they submitted their fraud case referral. There's no more this went into a black hole. Here are some examples of the C-Talk stand-up, the briefing at the end. After I present the fraud fighter, the way we kick it off is I reach out to their manager and director. We want to go over some lessons learned. You don't want to reach out to the fraud fighter directly. Great job. You talk to the manager, they're on corrective action. Oh, so you always want to make sure you vet the process, right? Make sure they're in good standing and they're cleared to be on the intranet side and be featured in presentations such as this, etc. So once you engage the management and I sign off, you ask them to attend the C-Talk stand-up. The C-Talk stand-up is a small, intimate audience. Everything's held at a confidential level or higher, has to be taken offline. So the MSR who's in the call center gets to come to this, and in front of the CSO, the CISO, and other executives, sometimes executive council members if they're there that day, they get to hear about the great work that they did. I have the partnership with the CSO and the VP of fraud here. Sometimes, of course, the CSO is traveling, the CISO is present, and whoever is next in line, they always step in to make sure they can take that picture. A part of their recognition, they get a signed certificate from the CSO, and they get coined by the CSO as well. That's what this is. If you're not familiar with military coins, this was the military challenge back in the day. It identified what branch of military you were in, and eventually it turned into a recognition of honoring you of an achievement. So when our CSO is coining a fraud fighter, we're saying not only are you important, you belong to the enterprise security group. With your partnership, we're able to protect our members. Without you, it can't get done. You're that front line. Rules, technology can't do what you do. What you see in here goes a long way. So it really goes a long way when they receive this coin and the signed certificate. And then, of course, I post the picture on ink. I share the story that goes across the company. Everyone gets to hear about it. So after that happened, I decided that's cool and everything, but I think we could step this up a little bit more. So each year I travel to a few of our regional offices, and from that steering group that I referenced, the SMEs join me and we build the booths for the security and compliance expos. Well, one of those booths was the Fraud Fighter program. We hand out this, the magazine, we have custom Yetis to winners, we have custom mouse pads, different things, but the importance is going over the fraud red flags. Well, instead of having a SME tell the workforce this is what you should do, why don't we have my actual superheroes travel with me? So I'm not costing any more money because the money's already budgeted, and I'm actually going to save the SMEs time when they can do their regular jobs, right? Once again, leadership buy-in. Went to my CSO, went to the VP of fraud. Hey guys, we could step this up on a whole other level. I'm going to fly these people in, or they're going to meet me where I'm at. They're going to work the Fraud Fighter booth hands-on themselves. I went through my data, selected the top 4 submitters at the time. These 4 fraud fighters had already prevented $1.4 million in potential losses. So I say, hey guys, you're going to hit the road with me. So this is one of my fraud fighters. She's in the background on the left. She's a military spouse. It's hard for them sometimes to find employment because they move around. We have work-at-home positions. Feedback we've also received that's challenging. I'm a work-at-home employee. I don't feel like I'm a part of things that happen at home office or one of the regional offices. Well, guess what? My reporting, it doesn't matter where you work. So she was selected, and as you can tell from her feedback, to feel included went a long way for her. Her husband was deployed, but got back right in time for her to enjoy the trip. Another example, this guy is on fire for the Fraud Fighter program. Still in my reporting every month, he's one of my top submitters, does an amazing job. So his feedback reflects that. Thank you for acknowledging something that I'm so passionate in. But what he told me personally was, Nicole, I've been with USAA 15 years. I've never had a travel opportunity until you did this. Thank you so much, I truly do appreciate it. And when we hit the road and went to the Phoenix office, and he's out of San Antonio, people are coming up to the booth, interacting. Hey man, I know we have to reach numbers and all that, but you have a responsibility. You gotta identify these fraud red flags. Blah, 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 blah. And the guy goes, Randy? Yeah, do I know you? They do the same job. They're just at regional offices. So finally, to put a face to the name, interaction, networking, exposure. Oh, maybe I want to move here, work here. Nicole, tell me more about fraud. Tell me more about information security. So it's beyond recognition. It branches them up. It opens their eyes. It's a great opportunity. My last feedback is one of my favorite. If you don't have an ambassador program, you can have many ambassadors. Once they have this experience and they hit the road, they're able to take that back to their regional office and share those experiences. What I learned here today, I'm going to take back. I feel honored to be a part of it, and they go back to their teams. And that's really important. That's what hit home to me. So what you see here is me presenting the CTALK operation office, the briefing. And just like we recognized our fraud fighters, you have to be able to recognize leadership. When they take the time to say, yes, we'll sign off, we'll participate, we'll be at the monthly stand-up, Nicole will do all these things, we'll help you out. Well, guess what? Thank you for making that decision. I want to recognize you as leaders. Look how it pays off. Look at the feedback from the fraud fighter community. Let's keep this up. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Let's remain vigilant. So I'm recognizing executives as well, and it's well received. To me, this is the ultimate recognition. This guy's name is Charles. So Charles had been on the job less than 5 months. And so he just finished new employee orientation, where my fraud fighter program is talked about there as well. And so he was on fire and on the phones, and he's servicing a member. Well, while he was on the phone, this fraudster knew absolutely everything. Any authentication question, anything about the account balances, they knew it. This was a true identity theft victim. So Charles didn't have anything to stand on. He didn't fail anything. He knew everything. It was literally a hunch. So I just told you about the people that we're servicing, right? What if he's in the middle of the ocean, a circumstance? You don't want to deny service just to be denying service to one of our members. So he put the fraudster on hold, the member, and got his manager, hey, I really can't tell you what's wrong. It's a hunch. I just don't think this is right. So collectively, they made that decision to go ahead and deny service and submit their fraud case referral. Well, good thing he did, because it was a wealth management member, and that one phone call, they were trying to move $5.4 million. So he prevented a potential loss of $5.4 million. Well, once again, I'm presenting this in the Cyber Threat Operations Center. I'm super pumped. And that time, there was an executive council member in the audience. He thought this was a huge deal. So he said, you know what? We need to do something bigger than that. The next thing you know, Charles is meeting the CEO of the company and the board when they made a visit to the Phoenix location. So he was also featured in our intranet top story. He's one of my #1 ambassadors, if you want to put it that way. Nicole, this is going on, this is going on. This went a long, long way. And when I go around and I'm doing my town halls or my staff calls or whatever, I kind of make jokes about, I oversee the program, yet I haven't even met the CEO. But that's great for Charles, whatever. But I'm not the one that say $5.4 million either. So this is a great, great opportunity and a great form of recognition. So if I have some takeaways for you all, any action items you can take, if you're standing up a brand new program, first and foremost, what is the problem or what is the change of behavior you're trying to solve, right? If you have one, or it could be behavior you want to keep, like I mentioned, the submitting of the fraud case referral forms. What processes currently exist? Who are those process owners? Have conversations with them, sit down, tell them what you have in mind. Can I have access to the data? Okay, no, can you send me the data over? What do you get on a recurring basis, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or whatever you're trying to do? Once you have their buy-in and you realize the resources are there, it won't cost that much time because people are already doing the work, because that's key, especially in the fraud space, they're in the trenches. The SMEs are already doing the work. Hey, you worked this case last month. Can you just give me a high-level summary? Yes, Nicole, here you go. I'm not really slowing anything down. Once you have that process, go back to leadership because you know they're busy. That's an expensive conversation, right? Real quick, I want to stand up this recognition program. I already have this person's buy-in, this person's buy-in. The process is already here. All I'm asking is 5 minutes of your time. Can you sign this certificate? Can you quickly just shake a hand, take a picture? Once you have that, it's time for your rec session. That's when you bring the process owners in. Okay, guys, let's keep our mission and purpose in mind, and how are we going to execute this on a regular, reoccurring basis so the program has sustainability? And once you have that, you're off to start your recognition program, and it starts from kids all the way up to adults. Positive reinforcement goes a long way. Thank you.